My next guest is one of our most frequent and popular guests on this show or any show, and we thought it was best to wait for the last week before we got a segment of The World According to Dale Romans. Dale Romans.
Thank you.
I know I don't have to tell you to talk into the mic. I know you're
I'll
ready
talk
for that.
where everybody can hear me.
How you doing, Dale?
I'm doing well. Now, you're making me come up here and follow the multiple Eclipse Award-winning trainer. It seems like yesterday that he was in the barn with me working on Kitten's Joy and Roses in May.
Really? Was that right when you... Let me ask you a question. Speaking of roses in May, is it true that you told owner Ken Ramsey that if he didn't pay you, you were going to eat roses in May?
There's a story behind that, but I don't think that's quite it. We're not going to talk bad about Ken Ramsey now. He made my career, got me jump-started. But we had a few issues.
But you've been known to have an issue.
Chad was working for Dr. Alday at the time, and he was in the barn with us through the whole period.
Really?
Oh, it's been great to watch his ascent. He's a very smart guy. I told him a long time ago, we're supposed to train for Cornell grads, not train against them.
Well, as I recall, one unnamed trader, Chad, went to get a job with him years ago, and the trader said to him, "I don't hire no smart guys."
Right. Yeah, and he probably trains all that guy's horses today.
Not exactly. So, what's going on with you? How's your Saratoga been?
Saratoga's been great this year. I mean, we won one race, and which was important to me. It's 27 years in a row we won one race here, so that was kind of important for me.
Wow. 20 more years and you'll be Jonathan Shepard.
I thought about that. When you do something that many years in a row, it means you're getting old. But I just was thinking, when I won my 27th year in a row the other day, I was thinking my father, when I pulled out of the barn at 26 years old to head up to Saratoga, he said, people like us don't win at Saratoga. That it was crazy for me to go, and I came up here and won 3 races with 6 horses, and it really launched my career. There's so much difference, and you could have won 30 races at Ellis Park and not had the same effect. So this is a great place. And they asked me this today again to give my greatest moment of Saratoga, which, the obvious answer is winning the Travers and beating American Pharoah. But I'm going to tell you, I couldn't have felt any better than I did the day Superforce won my first race at Saratoga. You could have ended my career right then, and I would have thought I'd done enough.
What kind of horse was he?
He was a 50 claimer that I held a couple of times, ran for 25, and we cashed a big bet on him. Statute of limitations is up, I think.
I think statute of limitations is up. 27 years ago?
27 years ago, right.
1993?
1993. Bailey was crawling around on a little blanket in the backside watching races with me.
Bailey, your daughter's 27 now?
26. She'll be
Really?
27 this year, yeah.
She is working for Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete.
For Mayor Pete, yeah. So any Democrats out there, feel free to applaud Mary Pete.
She's working for him in Iowa, is that correct?
If we were in the city,
got a big
everybody
promotion,
clapped.
I heard.
Right. She did. She got a good promotion. She's doing well. And she's his main scheduler now in Iowa.
It's a little disappointing she hasn't been here this meet. But Jake, your son, has been here.
He's been here a couple of times. He won't miss Saratoga.
He's working now, Jake.
He's a jocks agent. He's doing
He must
very
take
well.
after his mom.
He does. Both of them do, actually. None of them act like me, so that's a good thing. But that's what Chad and I are going to talk about when I come off the stage, is maybe getting a few mounts for Jake's jockeys.
Well, he's got Channing Hill.
Channing Hill and Martin Schwann, a kid that came out of South America, and believe me, he's going to be one of the Ortiz boys one of these days. He's a really good kid, 24 years old. He was the king of South America, and he came highly recommended from Ramon Dominguez. So, if Ramon likes a jockey, I think he knows what he's talking about.
I saw Ramon the other day. You helped his career out by getting him a last place finish in the Travers.
No, you had to bring that shit up, right? You're lucky your mother's here. I'd really talk bad about you, Mom. Yeah. Hey, at least he got to come. And you should have seen the crew of Peruvians that were following him all the way back. It's a funny story. He's a 24-year-old kid, and he's pretty naive, but he's the king of South America. He's already won 1,000 races.
He's already 24?
Yeah, he's 24.
Oh, wow.
So when I told him I was going to ride him in the Travers, his question to me in broken English was, when will I see my name in the program? He wanted to take a picture and send it to his father in Peru.
That's cool.
That was cool. And then, believe me, he's going to win Travers. He's not going to come up here and run last in him. He'll come up and win Travers before his career is over.
Do you think for Steve Rushing or Jimmy Riccio by the time he wins Travers? Other agents.
Yeah, right. Maybe. Who knows? Might be me the way things are going.
Right. You're ready to steal an agent or steal a jockey
when
from
I
your
see
son.
the checks Jake's picking up every once in a while with no headaches, really, I think about it.
They're doing pretty well. So you've got speaking of headaches and potential headaches, you've got a pretty big horse in your barn.
I think I have the best colt, at least on the dirt, I've ever had. I mean,
Dennis's Moment.
Dennis's Moment is a great 2-year-old. And if anybody doesn't know, he won by 19 1/4 lengths at Ellis Park. It's really his first start. His first start, the jockey was on him. He fell off coming out of the gate. Another jockey came over and knocked him off. Now imagine you're watching a horse you think is the best horse you ever had, run around the track with no jockey and reins dangling over his neck, just waiting for him to flip over and trip him. But he came through it in good shape. We ran him back at Ellis Park. He did. He ran one by 19 1/4. It was a fifth of a second off the track record at 7/8 of a mile. So I never had a 2-year-old do anything like that.
Well, you're not going to run the grade 1, hopefully. You're going to run a grade 3 at Churchill.
You know how many people sent me the tape of you criticizing me and saying I was afraid to run into grade 1? I saw it. They taped it off the TV.
You're scared. It's clear you're scared.
Right, it's scared.
You know you get
one
very
thing I'm not is afraid to run in a big race.
Right. You're not afraid.
Nobody could ever say that about me.
No.
But we're going to run back in the Iroquois at Churchill Downs. That just gives us a chance to go around 2 turns. It's a win and you're in. And you only had to run one more time going into the Breeders' Cup. And if he was to win the Iroquois, go to the Breeders' Cup, we got 4 starts at 2. That's plenty of foundation. And we'll look for next year. I need to win me a Kentucky Derby.
Well, this is a similar route that you do, really. You really do. It's an embarrassment that you haven't won a Derby yet. You've been close. You were third with.
I've been third a couple of times. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to run in it with 10 different horses in 9 different times. But, that's hometown. And to win one of those, I don't know what would happen. I don't want to retire like Dan Marino. He never got his Super Bowl. All you Giants fans can clap to that, too.
You and Chad have both won the Preakness, though.
We have both won the Preakness. Believe me, Chad's going to, before it's all over, he's going to break every record known in the racing history books.
He's working on it. So Dennis's moment, will you chose the same path with not this time?
Not this time, did the exact same thing. He ran bad first time. He won at Ellis Park second time, galloped in the Iroquois, got beat ahead, and got injured in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, he was a half to Liam's Map, is that right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was sensational.
He's a superstar, and he's standing stud and got beautiful babies on the ground now, so he might be on my retirement plan.
So you're seeing Dennis Moment running just this race in September 14th, and then you'll plan to go from the Breeders' Cup straight to the Breeders' Cup?
Hopefully it runs like we think now. We're going to take Irad down to ride him. I said I can't make any mistakes this time. I'm not doing anything but stay. Like Chad said, you got to keep yourself with the highest level of people around you. So we're bringing Irad into riding, and hopefully he'll stay with him through the Breeders' Cup.
Well, he's obviously a very, very exciting prospect. In talking about things, I always like to get your opinions because you're an outspoken, but at heart, I think like all of us, you're a racing fan. You love the game.
Huge racing fan.
And talk about the state of racing, because we haven't really discussed it much in the show. And, Saratoga is such a wonderful celebration of everything that's great about racing. And where do you see racing right now?
See, I'm not the doomsday person that everybody is on racing.
Not me. I'm not either.
No, I think we're primed to explode. I mean, it's the best game that could possibly be on the internet. It's a picturesque game. Everybody can follow it. It's exciting, and it takes most people with high intellect, they like the game. It's a thinking person's game. Now, we have problems, and we have things we have to fix. But anytime there's rapid change, like is in our industry, like with social media, with being able to travel around more exposure, you've got to tighten up and do things different and change with it. Alan Jerkins, our good friend, told me one time, I came back from a race, and I didn't run any good, and I was complaining about all the changes in the game, and it's not what it was when I started. We were riding around in a golf cart. He told me, it's been changing since I was 17. And at that time, he was like 82. He said, change with it or get out of the game. He said, now get out of my cart. He kicked me off the cart. And so we got to keep adapting to change in this game.
Adapt or die.
Adapt or die. We have problems. The catastrophic injury issue that's been going on in California this year earlier is the biggest issue we have. And we owe it to the horses and to the fans and everyone. And I think there's great people. We're making great strides to get that down as far as we possibly can.
Well, we've done, not to blow our own horn, but we've taken it very seriously in New York, as we did when we had an issue back in 2011 or 12, and taking it seriously, and our numbers are very strong, but the industry needs to get behind that in general.
And no matter if our numbers get down very, very low, we have to get them down even lower. And we have to just keep staying on top of that. A lot of great things are happening. And NYRA led the way. NYRA has led the way. NYRA should be leading the way on this thing, and they will. They're going to. But we owe it to the horses. That's our biggest problem. And we keep working every day with smart people to do the right things to make sure that we cut the catastrophic injury rate as low as possibly could be.
Right. Honest but positive.
Honest but positive. Horses are poorly engineered animals, if you think about it. They have very small bones, big bodies, all these intestines that slosh around in them that get them where they colic. But there was a study done, I don't think anybody ever talks about it, because I don't even know if the study's ever been out, but it was done by the state vet in Kentucky that showed that horses, even in the wild or on farms, pleasure and riding horses have about a catastrophic injury rate of 1.4 per thousand. Right. And that's just because of the nature of what a horse is and how they're made. Now, at the racetrack, it's about 2 per 1,000. But we need to keep working to get it down lower. And at least at the racetrack, we're there to humanely put them down if we need to, or rush them to surgery for colics, and do the things that we have to do to keep them around.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you talk about the rates before racing, there's sort of a misunderstanding that it's just racing. Horses do a lot of crazy things having nothing to do with horse racing.
They do. They had one jump over the fence the other day. And, he didn't
Try
get
to get
hurt.
away from you.
He didn't get hurt. Now I'm worried about whether or not he can run it all. But he jumped over the outside fence, and if he doesn't run any better next time, he's going to be with Jonathan Shepard because he jumped pretty well. But I think the game's in a good place. I think you'll see contraction in the game. I think there'll be some racetracks go away. I always compare, when simulcasting came in, New York was ahead of the schedule with simulcasting. First of all, we had interstate, where all the tracks were only betting inside the state. And then it goes nationwide. These ADW platforms come in and take over. We're working on the revenue flows from them. But I talk, it's like big-time wrestling. Before WWF, and before you could watch Andre the Giant every week on TNT, everybody had their little hometown wrestling venues.
Did you ever consider a little wrestling, professional wrestling? I could see you. I'm picturing you.
I retired about 5 years ago, if you remember. That's right. But, yeah, that was my last bout. Hopefully,
So
anyway.
far.
Every once in a while, Tammy whoops on me.
You and Tammy could be a team.
Yes, but now we have to keep the minor leagues around, but the big venues, the big events are what's really taking over the game. And people can watch the great races every day. When I was a kid and you were a kid, if you were in California, you might as well have been in Hong Kong. You didn't know what was going on out there. Now there has been some contraction, the fold numbers are down, but it'll all work itself out in the end.
We never talk about you on the show. We really don't talk about where you came from. I mean, did you always hang around the racetrack and know you were going to be a trainer? Did you have aspirations to be a contributing member of society at one point in your life?
My high school principal was the one that told me, you better be a horse trainer. And so I followed in what he said. No, I grew up in the barn at Churchill Downs. My mother tells me that the first time I went to the barn 4 and petted a horse, I was 9 months old. And my father passed away early. He was only 58. And at that time, I had moved to barn 5 next door. But barn 4 was my summer camp. It's where I grew up. It was my backyard. We lived 3 miles away. I'd sleep in the barn in the tack room half the nights, and my mother would yell at me when I came home the next morning.
So you always assumed you'd be working in
Never
racing
have
to be a
thought
trainer?
about doing anything else all my life. Same with Tammy. I mean, she grew up in a barn with her family being on the racetrack and always knew she was going to ride and be a jockey.
Well, she was a rider, right?
She rode for 25 years and did very well. And when we needed it, back when we weren't doing very well at all, we double dip. I'd ride her on my horses, and that 10% doubled. So every purse was worth twice as much. And here lately, I've been thinking about bringing her back.
Dennis's moment doesn't do well in a couple weeks.
These purses today, she might have to get back to riding.
Well, she rides in the morning for you.
There she is whistling back.
She rides in the mornings, right?
The big part of my stable. She works all the best horses, gives me the best feedback anybody could. A lot of times I don't listen. I'm always wrong. But a lot of
course
times,
you're always
right.
wrong.
A lot of times I'll try to argue with her, but she always plays out to be right. And we've got a great crew. My main assistant at home, Baltimore, he's been with me since I started over 30 years ago. We're the same age. We grew up together. We both worked for my father. My assistant up here has been with me over 20 years. And it's a good group of people. We've done a lot together, a lot more than anybody expected, including us.
And who are some of your mentors or idols, sort of, that you dealt with growing up?
I came up a little different than everybody else, but I admired everybody. And Alan Jerkins was my biggest one. And he was more of a mentor as how to be an adult and how to handle yourself and treat people than horse racing. We talked a lot of horse racing, but it was more with Alan was just how to handle yourself, not crack under the pressure. He told me one day we were sitting around talking, he said, you're different. You do things different than everybody else. He said, but so do I. But don't ever change the way you do things. Don't conform for anybody. It works for you, do it your way. And I've always done things my way. But I'll tell you one of the best stories about winning the Travers. We win the Travers, beat American Pharoah. And I walked back with the horse. I didn't go to the trophy presentation. I didn't go to the press conference. I don't know. I was in a little bit of a daze, and I just left with my horse. I was throwing roses at people over the thing. But I get back to the barn, and there standing at the barn waiting for me is Leroy Jolly. And he runs over and gives me a big hug. I think that probably was the highlight of my career at that point, to have a guy like him that I grew up admiring and loving all my life standing there waiting for me.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Another thing Alan taught me, he said, help the guys behind you. He helped everybody. He didn't try to push anybody down. He pulled them up. Everybody.
No one will ever know people just will never know how many people Alan Jerkins helped.
Everybody. And how many people in this business, though, are happy when everybody wins. It didn't matter who it was. It was a son, it was a competitor, somebody he didn't even like. He loved the horse. He was happy they won. And so this, I don't know what I would have done without this game. It's been good to me.
I agree. I feel the same way. Dale, thanks so much for
Hey,
joining us.
before
It's
I
always
go-
great having you here. And we wish you best of luck this fall, especially with Dennis's moment. We'll all be rooting for him.
Thank you. This is Andy's last show for the meet, so let's have a toast to our sweet summer at Saratoga. Yay.
Say with